Good afternoon. I'm so delighted to be with you at this time. My name is Peggy. I work in Thailand. I've been here since 1989. I've been a missionary both in Thailand and Laos for all those years. And I have done various ministries. But the last one that I've done before I came to this job was I was a specialist in aftercare for children that have been abused or exploited sexually or in labor. And so I worked in that organization for about 11 years. And during that time, when I first started, I was looking for a tool to do group work with. And I came across this Healing the Wounds of Trauma program that I'm going to introduce to you today. This is a Bible-based trauma healing that is also based on sound mental health principles, excuse me. So, trauma healing program started in 2001. And you see this lady? She said that, as you see, she's very experienced and very qualified. And she said that trauma may be the biggest mission field in the world today. Wow, that's very big. And because of that, this is now all over the world, is in over 100 countries, I'm thinking, and 61 languages. So I'd like us to think about what is trauma. I'll show you a video that's just about a little bit over 1 minute, very simple definition of trauma.
What do you think of when you hear the word trauma? You might think of terrible events like violence, abuse, or disaster. When we hear the word trauma, we often think about the cause, but trauma is actually the effect of events like these. Trauma is a wound of the heart and mind that causes deep suffering. It leaves us feeling overwhelmed and disconnected, and it takes a very long time to heal. It hurts every part of us, our relationships, our bodies, our thoughts, and our faith. Often, trauma sends shockwaves through entire families and communities. And because suffering is part of the human experience, we are all vulnerable to trauma. But God is with everyone who suffers. God feels our pain with us, and God wants to help us heal. That is why we have hope. Whenever there is trauma, healing is always possible.
What did you think about that? Now that we have that definition of trauma, let's look at what would cause a person to be traumatized. I'm going to slowly scroll 7 adverse events for us when we think about, because when we think about trauma, we think about the worst things that happen. People on the field that are having war, or we think about rapes, but there are other events, and you do not necessarily have to be the person going through it. You could be witnessing it. Think about, at this time, I would like to think about our news. We get news 24/7 now. And those images that we absorb into our lives. And also, if it happens to somebody close to you, you may well be affected in an adverse way. So as I scroll down, I would like you to think about whether you've met with this problem, or whether somebody that's very close to you has met with these situations. Let's look at them. this severe human suffering because it's behind that. Wow, a lot of these things are very, very common, don't you think? So I'd like you to now type in chat to everybody so that we can give our opinions. Do you agree with Dr. Diane Lambert? Why do you agree or why don't you agree? Have you or someone you know been through one of the 17 events? Now that we see what may cause us to be traumatized, let's have a look at some of the behaviors that we or whoever has been traumatized may exhibit. Number one, we might relive the event. For those of us that want to use more professional words, we have flashbacks, either in the day or at night in the form of nightmares. We may avoid anything that reminds us of the event. And this is not just avoiding places, although that happens, avoiding certain people, avoiding certain events, but also avoiding inside of us. We do not want to think about that. And so because of that, we start drinking, we start taking drugs. But you say, we're all Christians, we don't do that. Smoking. Then what about doing more work? We do something to avoid thinking about or have that sensation come up again. Eat more, eat less. These are just some of the common things that we do in order to avoid thinking about the event. And then we are on alert all the time. And the professionals amongst us will call this hypervigilance. So what does that mean? It just means that our energy are concentrating on what will happen to me. Oh no, is it going to happen again? So we then, of course, lose concentration either in our work, if we are working, or if we are students, we lose concentration on our studies. And we just find that for students, of course, then their school suffers. They start getting worse grades. For workers, you know, you don't produce what you used to be able to produce. And for us, this is very important because trauma creates a barrier to God and Bible. For those of us that are doing scriptural engagement, we would see that, wow, there's a barrier between us and God, and we do not know how to go through that. There's a barrier between us and the Bible. We do not know whether we can trust God anymore. We do not know whether we really believe what the Bible is saying. We do not know, we do not want to pray anymore. That's the effect of trauma. It creates a barrier between us and God and the Bible. The next one is it creates a barrier between us and our community. We isolate ourselves. We feel as if we are by ourselves. We no longer do the things that we used to do, either socially or with our families. We just withdraw. Some people get obviously very angry, the other side of the scale. This is also very true. In our brain, we are now disconnected. We have a barrier even within ourselves. So now I would like to introduce you to this program and the process that it goes through. We talk about suffering, being heard, grieving, lamenting, and we talk about bringing our pain to the cross. And notice we only talk about forgiveness after we bring our pain to the cross. Then we talk about rebuilding and having more resilience. But more than that, I like to talk about the methodology. And this is very participatory. We have, if it's online like that, we will have breakout rooms, and our groups are small. We call them healing groups, and they're small so that a group, if it's a big group, it would be 12 of us. If it's a small group, it'll be our table. If it's pairs, then it's pairs. We discuss about different things. We learn about how to listen to each other. We learn how to write laments. And do you know that if we look at all the scriptures and doing all the lessons, there are 16 lessons in all. There are over 300 scripture verses that are used. And so we do all that. We have skits. We get everybody involved in skits. We get everybody involved in different things, art exercises, amongst others. However, I would like to emphasize on something. We make the group, we create a safe place. We make it safe for people to be able to warm up to each other. We cause the group to be safe in a couple of ways. Number one, once we start the group, nobody else can come into the group unless everybody in the group agrees. But usually we do not have anybody else come in. Then we emphasize a lot on confidentiality. We explain that if it's somebody's story, only they have the right to tell the story. If you would like to share about this program, tell your own story. And we have authorization forms where we get people to sign if they are willing to have their pictures taken. This is general pictures and recordings of maybe a skit or something like that. We will have, they have to sign. If they don't sign, we either block them completely. If they don't sign from the very beginning, we try not to take pictures with them in the pictures, because we need pictures to share with our supporters, share with our organization. And so we have the people be willing, and if they're not willing, that's fine. But also, another thing is, of course, with a program like that, I'm going to tell you some testimonies at the end of this time. And I assure you that those testimonies have already been authorized. If they are not authorized, I would not be able to share them with you. So safety is a big concern of ours. And obviously in a group discussion, group work, respect is also a very big thing. I'd like to talk to you about how this program is accessible to everyone. We want to make sure that people do not feel as if they're ashamed because they don't understand certain words. Like, for example, I use the word hypervigilance. What on earth is that? If they do not understand that, they might feel embarrassed. So we make sure our vocabulary are kind of like in middle school age, and so that everybody can understand. And then we show that the content is not just simple in the vocabulary. The content is actually very deep, because these are very deep issues of the heart when trauma has happened. And obviously, this is not graduate level trauma counseling training, because I want to ask those of us here that are professional counseling and you're just interested in this community track. How many people can you serve in one day? How many people can you serve in 1 month? To give them all that energy. But there's so many people that have trauma, especially this year, for the last 18 months with COVID-19. Everybody is traumatized. And this does not replace individual therapy. And I like to have a seat. Mental health professionals, you can only minister to a few people, but when we train trauma healing facilitators, we train them to facilitate, not to preach, not to teach, to encourage the participants to share as much as they feel they want to share. And they get a listening ear. And so then if we notice that somebody really needs a lot more help than we can offer, we always refer. So I like to show just to let you see a little bit of what trauma healing in Thailand is about. And this video is about under 4 minutes. It's just share with you what it might look like just a little bit. Okay, we've seen that video. What do you think about that? I'd like you to give your opinion in the chat to everyone in these 2 questions. Do you think a model like this could work in your community? Why? And why not? Do you have something similar that you're already doing in your community? If you do, perhaps you can share it in the chat too. It might be workable for some of the other people that are in this track. Lastly, I would like to share about testimonies of 3 people in our last group. And I'd like to take note that this 3 people that were in our last group that we had are church leaders or pastors. The first person, we have art exercises, as I said, and during the art exercise, we gave the instruction that please use whatever color you're comfortable with and draw a symbol of your pain. And this lady, she drew a flower. When she drew this flower, she used the color brown. And I noticed that as I was just quietly looking around, not making any noise, that she was using very hard strokes. She said that she wanted to use that color because she was comfortable using it. As she colored, the image of this relative came to her mind. This relative who had called her a slut ever since she was little and had been very disrespectful to her. And this relative she loved all through her life. But during this art exercise, she said, it's as though I hated this person. It was as though, oh, she was so upset and distressed. And she said that this caused her inferiority. And she didn't know that that insecurity came from this person. And there was so much that was connected to what this person had called her. And usually what we do is when we ask them for a testimony, we'll let them settle down for a while. And she gave this testimony a week later, and she said, I am a transformed woman. I am different. I don't feel inferior anymore. I'm not insecure anymore. I'm transformed. Thank God. The next woman, on a slightly different part of it, she said, you know, I'm a pastor. I have all these people to look after, and I just want to know what they have to say quickly so that I can give them the advice. And she said she didn't like to listen. However, after we talked about the listening and they listened to each other, she went home and she had to listen to somebody that she was looking after. This was, we have 3 days in a healing group. And so after the first day, the second day when she came, she said, wow, listening works. Listening has better results. The third person was a person, one of our lessons talks about grief and the grief journey that we share with them. This is what it looks like and all that. And this person had gone through grief when her father passed away during her last month. Well, just after she graduated from seminary, but during the last month of her study, where she had to prepare for exams and all that, she had to move from province where her father lived in the hospital, look after him in the hospital, and travel back and forth to the seminary that was in Bangkok, in the capital. And so she was really tired. She was distraught because her father became so sick. And then when she graduated, she was finally able to graduate. The doctor said, your father is much better. She went home. After 4 days, her father passed away. And other people will say, you need to get over it. There's a word in Thai called tham chai, which means you need to accept that he's gone. But she couldn't. And she didn't really have time to grieve. And so when she came for the healing group, she understood that, oh, all these feelings that I had gone through, they are normal, and she was able to grieve properly. So now I would like, if you have any question, to put it in the chat, and I will attempt to answer them. And also I put in here 2 websites in Thailand, our website here for Thai material. If you want to look at them, there are some resources in the USA where all the resources are. You can see that. You can go there to traumahealinginstitute.org.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Peggy, for the presentation. Well, we now come into a time of Q&A. So if you have any questions, perhaps you might like to just put them in the chat, and then Reverend Peggy can also answer them, right? And Reverend Peggy, I think that was one that was already popped up in the chat about any ideas about training local people to debrief their community regarding COVID losses that you might be aware of.
Well, actually, this material that we have, it's actually in America. The 2 sites that I gave you is, and we might have it too in English, but we definitely have it in Thai. We translated it, and it's open to the public. You can go to the sites and you can take it and go through with it, either as a small group or by yourself. We don't have the teens material because we never got to do it, but didn't have time. But we have the adults material, and we have the children's material, which is really it's a family material. And so, but in America, in English, they have that too. It's called the teens version of going through COVID. It's called Unstuck, and it's very good. Some people use it with adults as well, and all these are available. Yeah.
Great. So good to know that there are resources out there. Just curious, another question that kind of came up, if the program or this model that you just described would work in low literacy settings, where there might be people in community who might not, for example, read Thai very well, would that be something that would be helpful for them?
Well, actually, we have a lot of different programs. So we have the classic program, which is for the adults, that we use books. And then we have the children's program, which is for children's. And definitely with children's and teens, we train people, but we cannot afford to have them doing online healing groups because they could just switch it off, and we don't know what's happening to that. So we do not want to bring harm. Yeah. But there's also a couple of other programs. I haven't done the training myself, but there's one oral storytelling. So all our lessons start with a story, but this is storytelling without the book. And what they'll do is they'll tell the story, and then after they tell the story, and they'll get the participants to tell them about the story. Okay, what was this story about? This
Sorry, Reverend Peggy, I think you accidentally muted yourself, so we kind of missed a little bit.
Okay, sorry, I thought
you're back.
Somebody muted me.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know when the storytelling
yeah,
is very good, and the stories just touches people's hearts, and they can do it the storytelling way. But I haven't gone for the training, so I can't train. So they've got storytelling, and then they've got just recordings, so the audio version as well. And now the latest thing that they have in the States is inmate version. So for correctional facilities, they have journals that you can help people that are in prisons or jails. If you are able to visit them, those kind of programs are also there.
Great. So storytelling and just different ways to be able to communicate with the community and with the people. Yeah, and just now you mentioned also a little in one of the stories, and I think that the testimonies that you were sharing about the participants. What about the bit about art? Like, can you share a little bit? There's a question here that's asking about using art in the program.
Okay, so of course, we are not art therapists. It's very simple. We would, during one of the lessons, we will take out paper for them, whatever colors they want to use. And we say, you can, during this time, we would like you to just think about that pain that you've been thinking about and put it down on the paper. It doesn't have to be the actual event. We are not looking for beauty. We are looking for you to express it. And we also say that maybe you can just draw a representative of what the pain is if you do not want to actually draw it. And I had a 14-year-old that I did the children's program with, and we had Play-Doh and they liked Play-Doh, and she was doing this Play-Doh thing, and I was like, I'm wondering what she's doing. It was like so happened that the Play-Doh was green, so it's like a green snowman,
right?
One big and one small on top of each other, and then two sticks sticking out. I said, what on earth is that? But of course, we never assume. So when she finished, waiting for her to do that, and then when she finished, I said, please, would you tell me what that is that you drew? And she said, I mean, I know her story, but this is a group setting. It kind of shocked me that she was able to go in, and she basically said, those are giant hands.
Wow.
And at the top is me with my hands sticking up, and the giant hands are absolutely in control. I can't do anything with it. When the giant hand said, go this way, I have to go this way. And so that's really trauma, because you have no control at all. And so we work through that, and those kind of things. It will come out.
Yes. And so much about trauma, when we talk about that, it's really that loss of control, that power and all that has been stripped. And how do we help to return that a lot, even not just adults, but children and teenagers as well. Just a note on that. What is the youngest age that this program might be suitable for? Like, how young does it go till?
So for the children's program, it's from 8 to 13. And what we do is we require all the participants to come for a healing group, so that they know what it's like, the curriculum is like, the program is like. The adult program only has 16 stories, but there are core lessons that everybody has to come to. That's about 6. So they have to come for that. Then we'll do maybe about 3-day training for them to prepare for the work for the children. And that one we can do online. But the other part that I said that we can't is when they go through the training, it's a camp. We have the maximum of 60, and we haven't been able to do the camp for two years running because of
Mhm.
COVID.
Yeah.
But once we train them, 2 facilitators to only 6 children.
Wow.
So, and we never encourage anybody to work by themselves, because one child could be crying and
Yes.
you know, as well as adults, they could be like emotionally distraught, and you might have to take them out. So always work in a team. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I guess in working as a team, tech team, that's kind of one, and also providing that safety for the group members who are in the team as well. Yeah, maybe just something a little practical as well in terms of how might you ensure that each person can process individually, since you meet in a group setting, and individually different ones may have different perspectives on different things to have to process through on their own. So how might you ensure that?
So it's group work. Is group work in their at their tables, and we encourage them to talk to each other, and we teach them how to listen, having listening skills. But say we have what we call laments. I mean, the Bible is full of laments, and
absolutely.
so we talk about laments, and we allow them to go to wherever they want to and just process it and write some things out. Or if they want to write a poem, whatever way they want to do. So that would be individual, but mostly it would be in a group. Otherwise, it would be in the smallest would be in pairs. But the laments, it's doing that. And also before we our just now the chart that I showed, we then encourage everybody, if you are ready now, after we talk about all the different lessons, we talk about bringing our pain to the cross, and that would be an individual thing too.
Right.
So we give out papers and all that, and allow them to go wherever they want to within the venue and start to write.
Yeah, and I really like how it's almost like you are directing them back to God, and they can bring things to the cross and really lay it at the cross, and in their own time, in a safe space, whatever that location might be. Yeah. And just another question that came out as well. Some people might be very hesitant to even attend healing groups as such. So what might be some suggestions in terms of encouraging them to participate in such groups?
Well, if it's not safe, they're not going to come.
Yeah.
And even when they come, we have to make it very safe. So we do not push, like we do not say you have to share. We say you can share. That's right off the front. You can share as much as you want, or you can share as little as you want. And some people, usually the first day, the first couple of lessons, people are very quiet. But then it's group work in the sense that we are all together, and say if we have a big group and we have 2 facilitators, there will be a table of 6 each.
Yeah.
So within that 6 people, whatever they share within that 6, the other table might not hear.
Yeah.
And then if it's some of the questions, actually all the questions are very they're crafted in such a way that, and they've been tested in so many countries. I think some of the number of countries is actually more than what I put down there, because they have changed some of the statistics. But when they do in pairs, they just share within themselves. We don't ask. And some things, sometimes we say, okay, could you feedback about some, okay, what would happen? Some of the questions are for to learn about, but when it's personal things, we don't even ask for feedback. We just allow them to talk in their pairs if they want to, that kind of thing.
And just really enhancing that sense of safety and security for them, and not feeling like they are forced or they have to say anything or share anything. And it's
not
really
at all.
At their own pace as well. And it's almost like you have to kind of titrate that narrative that flows through for them. Yeah, and thank you so much, Reverend Peggy. And I know there are some other questions about trainings and all that. And Reverend Peggy is based in Thailand. So of course, we all can't fly and travel to Thailand at this point. Do go to the Healing Institute website. I believe that there are also the same program that is being run in different countries. And you can always go to the website and contact them and find out more information about the program. Yeah.
It's actually very global. I'm doing a healing group with some of my facilitators in Malaysia at the moment. And yeah.
And I guess the nice thing about what has happened this past year
Yes.
with technology, you are in Thailand, I'm here in Singapore, and we can just connect and we can chat and we can still have trainings run, which is amazing because we can still be equipped with necessary skills and the knowledge to really help the people who are hurting and broken and really bring hope and bring life to them. Yeah. So thank you so much, Reverend Peggy, for your time.